Hello and welcome to my new video. Guess what? So, I was working in corporate America, burned out. I was a traveling technology specialist. I traveled the world to different conferences, medical conferences, pharmaceutical conferences, technology conferences, and I did trainings for people all over the world for these big corporations, right? They bring me in, I do a training session, and for 5 years, it was fantastic. I got to go to cities all over the United States. I got to go to countries all over the world, and I really enjoyed it. But after about 5 years, I was burned out. Waking up in different time zones, sometimes being gone from home 2 to 2.5 weeks at a time, traveling through two, three, four different time zones, it began to wear me out. But at the end of that time frame, some of my colleagues I noticed were leaving the company. I reached out to a few of them and found out, hey, why did you leave? Everyone thinks this is one of the best jobs in the world. And they were like, yeah, it's a good job. But guess what? If you go into contracting, you can double your salary and you can work from home. So you won't have to travel the world and get burned out anymore, right? So I said, oh, okay. Needless to say, I didn't tell my employer, just like none of those guys told the employer that they were leaving for that reason. I turned in my letter of resignation. HR was like, why are you leaving? All my colleagues were like, why are you leaving? I didn't tell anyone. I kept it to myself. I didn't even tell my family. So I left the company and I got some contacts from my former colleagues and I was able to go into contracting. The good news about the contracting is I was able to work remotely from home and double my income. In a couple of cases, I earned 2.5 times more than what I had on my previous job. So what people were like worried is, oh my God, what about insurance, man? What are you going to do about your health care? What are you going to do about your 401k? Guess what? If you're earning 2 to 2.5 times more money, you can buy your own health insurance reasonably. Thanks to the state that I live in, they have plans through the state for small business owners and for independent contractors like myself, and we can get great health coverage insurance for very reasonable and affordable prices. So that wasn't a big deal. Next, what I did was I rolled over my 401k and I put it into a Roth IRA and did some other things with my money. And then from that point on, I opened up some other investment funds and began to contribute to that. But I know that's not why you're here. I'm not a financial advisor. So yeah, that's not why you're here. You want to know, how did I work two jobs and enjoy it, right? So here's what I did. Last year, 2023, I get a call from a guy I had been trying to link up with. I had been referred his information from a former colleague, and he finally had a gig for me. He had been trying to get me a gig through his particular company for some time, and a couple opportunities didn't work out. Finally, he found a gig that worked for me. It's with one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, and it was a remote job. And when he called me and told me how much they wanted to pay me, I couldn't believe it. I'm going to tell you the exact amount somewhere in the video. I'm not going to tell you where in the video because then you'll have to watch the whole video. But I couldn't believe it. It was more than double what I had made in my previous gig. As a matter of fact, if I think about it, it was more than 2.5 times that what I had made in my previous gig, right? So he got me this gig. I'm working on it. I'm thinking, oh my God. They gave me this title too. I was like, whoa, this was a title I had never had before. So I start the training for the gig. It's all remote. I'm working at home and I'm doing the gig. Everything's working out fine. And it's all going really well. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's the stress? Where's the headache? Where's the burnout? When am I going to feel overwhelmed? When am I going to feel underpaid? That never happened. I'm working the gig. Everything's going smoothly. I'm enjoying the job. It's not a lot of stress. And I was just perplexed. I was like, is this really how it gets the higher up you move in the world? So that gig's going just fine. The employer likes me. The agency that has contracted me out, they like me and they're getting good reports from the employer. So then the employer calls me and says, hey, I know you're working this full-time gig for us, but I've got another gig that you could do part-time in the evenings for maybe 10 hours a week, and they're going to pay you even more than your full-time gig. We need a couple people for this, and you're one of the first people I thought of when the opportunity arose. Would you be interested? I was like, heck yeah, I'd be interested. So then he sets me up with that gig, and it's me and another guy working on this gig, and we're doing training sessions for another major pharmaceutical company whose products I guarantee you are in your medicine cabinet, in your kitchen, in your hall closet. Yes, one of those big companies. So they needed some special trainings done for some of their people. I can't go into a lot of details, and I do apologize for that because I do sign non-disclosure documents when I work for these big companies. But just know that, like I said, you definitely have their products in your home. It doesn't matter who you are and where you're from. If you're anywhere in the Western world, you've got their products in your home, I guarantee you. So here we go. I'm working the full-time job, and I'm doing the evening job 10 hours a week. And I know the first thing you're thinking is, how the heck are you not exhausted? Well, here's the secret. The secret is, with the 40-hour-a-week daytime job that I had, I really was only working, truthfully, about 15 to 20 hours a week. It wasn't a high volume job. It wasn't a high demand job. What the job did require was, for the work that I was assigned, perfection and accuracy. So for the 15 to 20 hours of a week of work that I was given, I was required to do everything perfectly. So there was that pressure in that sense, right? But when you think of it, if you're only working 15 to 20 hours a week out of 40, then that means you have more time to get things done right. And in between projects, you have more downtime to sort of regroup, settle your nerves, calm yourself down. And then when the next task cross your desk or the next project cross your desk, you're like, okay, I'm not stressed out. I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm collected. No big deal. I can knock this work out in a couple of hours, right? So my boss would give me a project and say, okay, if you can have this done by the end of the week, I'd be grateful. She might give it to me on Monday, for example, and say, hey, if you could have this done by Friday, close of business or end of business, I'd appreciate it. Well, guess what? The way that I learned to work in this particular contract was, I get the project, let's say early Monday morning. I was given a whole week to complete it. I might be done by Tuesday afternoon. Now, am I going to raise my hand and rush over to my employer and say, hey, I finished early. Give me more. Give me more. No, I didn't do that. This is a contract job. I'm not there for big raises. I'm not there to move up their corporate ladder. I'm not there to be smiled upon by the higher ups. I'm there to do a job that I was contracted for and do it exceptionally well. And that's exactly what I did. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a big deal. I did quality work for them, and they were very pleased. Then, like I said, I get a call halfway through that contract about this second gig. And the guy's like, hey, we've got another major company that needs a couple of people to come in, do some special trainings for the employees over this 6-week period of time. Would you be interested? I said, heck yeah. He told me the amount of money, and I was like, I didn't even believe that people made that kind of money. I mean, I knew that other people made that kind of money. I never knew that I would make that kind of money. Insane. So here we are. I start the new gig. I have a couple meetings with the team from the company and the other guy that they hired to facilitate the trainings. The other guy agrees to create all the trainings, which took all the pressure off me. I didn't have to create the trainings. He created the trainings, and then all I had to do was learn them, and we both took turns facilitating the training sessions over the 6-week period. And we both were paid exceptionally well. It was a breeze. The trainings would be about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, 2 or 3 nights a week. And you say, well, okay, that doesn't add up to 10 hours. Yes, but what the 10 hours was, let's say I trained for 3 hours, 3.5 hours throughout the course of the week. The other 6.5 hours was my preparation time, right? So I had to review the trainings. Maybe I had to tweak it. Maybe I had to meet with my colleague to make sure if there were any updates that we both needed to make, or also to make sure that we were on the same page, or to review any feedback that the company had given us as to the direction of how they wanted the trainings to go. It was another breeze. And again, I was just like, are people really making this kind of money and not having to stress themselves out, not losing their hair, not losing sleep, not ruining their health, not ruining their work-life, family, work-life balance? Come on. It was a breeze. So if you think about it, let's say I was doing 15 to 20 hours a week on the full-time job. I was doing about 4 hours a week max on the part-time gig. So let's say I take the high end of the full-time gig, 20 hours maximum worked. 4 hours on the part-time gig, 24 hours a week. Out of what I was being paid 50 hours a week at two very good rates. At least in my world, good rates. That's another thing too. Another thing I've learned about money is that it's all in perspective. The money I'm going to tell you about that I made, for some of you, you'll be like, well, I made that 5 years ago and I wouldn't want to be making that now. And for others of you, you'll be thinking, wow, I aspire to make that amount of money one day. And between you and I, as far as having a regular job, I had never even thought that I could make that kind of money. So that's why I loved what I was doing. I loved what I was doing because I was working for two great employers who made the work smooth. They didn't harass me. They didn't burn me out. They didn't overwork me. They certainly didn't underpay me in my mind. And although they had extremely high expectations, because the balance in the relationship was so healthy, I was able to easily give the employers what they required. So let's talk about that briefly. It's very easy to give what is required at a job when you're not overstressed, overworked, burned out, underpaid, and resentful. If you're paid well, if you have a good work-life balance, and if the people you're working with are professional and have reasonable expectations, and they pay you well, I think I said pay you well already, then guess what? It's that much easier to produce. Now, I know there's some of you out there who'll say, oh, well, I work great under pressure. Good for you. I'm glad that you're out there because you're needed. For certain fields, for certain jobs, you're needed. But for the rest of us who do better when we're not overworked, not overstressed, not burned out, and certainly not underpaid, then we are the ones that need to be in a position where we produce best in optimal conditions. And in those two contract roles, I was in optimal positions to succeed, to give the clients what they needed, to earn great pay, and to have a healthy work-life balance. So that's it. That's why I like those jobs. I really enjoyed them. I've been able to do lots of other contract work since then. The kinds of contract work I do, typically it's 6 months or 12 months. I've had a few in the past that were 12 months that got extended. I've had some that were 6 months that got extended, either because the projects didn't wrap up as quickly as they thought, or they liked my work and they had another project coming up and they said, hey, we'd like to keep you on for this upcoming project. Are you available? Heck yeah, I'm available. At this rate, sure, I'm available as long as you need. The beauty too of doing this contract work is that I like to travel. So let's say I accept a 6-month contract. I make a boatload of money. The 6 months is up. I can go somewhere for 2, 3, 4 weeks and relax, regroup, and get myself together. And towards the end of that time, I send out emails to my contacts at the agencies that I prefer to work with. And I say, hey, I'm going to be available as of, let's say February 1st. I send them an email and they'll say, hey, great, thanks for the update. We'll keep an eye out for any projects coming up. And, and sure enough, within a week or so of that date, I start getting calls and they say, hey, I've got a great project coming up. I thought of you. You're the person I want for this job. Right? So some people will say, I don't like the stability or the instability of doing contract work. Well, I can tell you in 5 years, it's been very stable for me. There have been Very few times where I had more than a week between contracts if I didn't want to take time off. For example, last year, I started the year with one company, great company. The 6-month contract ended, and within a week, I had another gig. I didn't even have time to think about planning the vacation or going anywhere because, boom, the other gig was there, and the opportunity was so great. The money was good. I said, I'll take it, right? So yeah, I enjoyed those. And if you're out there stressing yourself out, if you're in and doing work that is burning you out, you might want to consider contract work. And this is not the same as temp work, so don't get it confused. Contract work is when you sign a contract for a time frame, typically 6 months, 12 months. It could even be 18 or 24 months, depending on the field and depending on the requirements. And you can really set yourself up to be financially comfortable. You also will have a better work-life balance. You can spend more time with yourself, your family, your friends, doing the things that you love. If you have a side business, which so many of us have nowadays, it'll give you more time to build up your own business. And overall, your mental, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual health will be better. So I hope this helps you out. Look into it. If you have questions, send me messages in the comments, or you can DM me. I'll be glad to talk to you and help you with whatever I can to help you on your path to a better life. This is how I worked 2 jobs, and I enjoyed it. The first job, I meant to tell you that before I go. The full-time job, they were paying me $80 an hour, 80 an hour. I'd never made that much money in my life. The part-time job, they were paying me $90 an hour, 90. So you do the math. 80 times 40 hours a week and 90 times 10 hours a week. And I was paid weekly by both. It was an incredible run. So I hope this helps you guys out. I'm going to do more videos in the future that'll tell you how I got into the field I'm in, how you can get into the field if you're interested. And I'm going to do some special sessions for teachers because I know a lot of teachers out there are burned out, and the field that I'm in is especially attractive for teachers who want to transition out of public school teaching and want to move into something that will pay them better, where they'll get respect and still be able to use the skill sets that they learned as a teacher. So until next time, take care. My name is BJ. I appreciate you all listening. If you like what you heard, comment, like, subscribe, and share the video. And I'll be back real soon to talk more about my career and what I did and how you can get into a career that you enjoy and that you love. Take care. Peace.